It does look very modern Bronco, but
To me, that looks like what a Blazer interior
should look like.
would look
Yeah,
like if
right.
Chevy was doing it now, you know. So for this episode, we're going to be diving inside of the vehicles for some interior trends. We're going to talk about a little bit more of the current stuff, some of the newer technology, because, you know, this is coming back off the leg of, you know, the last SEMA show. We're actually judges with TMI products for their Trim Awards, which kind of basically honors the best and most custom interior work at the SEMA show. And we've seen that grow just immensely, even over the last 3 years of helping out and being judges with that.
Interior is kind of a little special to my heart. It's actually kind of the place where I got started in working on cars with, you know, my friend Reeves and Alan Hayes. They started Stitchcraft.
And then Alan has 714 Motorsports. Yeah.
And both companies have gone on to do great things. I mean, Revo's kind of the godfather of the Fast and the Furious franchises. Alan over there, of course, has done a lot of stuff with overhauling. So,
Chip Foose.
You know, that kind of stuff is kind of... All of us grew up together trying to do it for ourselves, so we had to learn it. Necessity is the mother of all invention.
And that's, and interior does sometimes get overlooked, you know, with custom vehicles, custom cars. It's on some people, with some it's maybe an afterthought, or it's not done to the same level as the performance of a car or a truck, or the graphics on the outside, or the, you know, the suspension work and that kind of stuff. But if you're not comfortable or confident driving a car, especially if you're doing autocross or road racing or just ripping around a canyon, like, you got to be safe, comfortable, and it's kind of got to have the same level of quality and style as the outside.
Well, yeah, exactly. Working at those interior shops growing up, you know, the thing we used to always say is interior is the last thing touched, and you spend the most time in it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you're maybe cleaning the outside of your car, but you're not watching the outside of the car while you're driving it.
Right.
You're seeing the steering wheel.
You're actually in it, right. Yeah.
You're seeing the dashboard. Obviously, we're not going to go too far back into the history of interiors. We want to talk about what the current trends are, especially using some of the examples of the winners from the TMI Trim Awards. Because, I mean, that's, honestly, if you got to look at it, these are some of the best and most current, you know, interiors being built, because they're debuting at the SEMA show. They're competing for the Trim Awards. So we saw kind of the best of the best, if you will, and the most current of what's being done.
Yeah, and what I've noticed is, honestly, technology has caught up.
Yeah.
You know, we're not just doing tuck and roll, you know, sewn pleats anymore. I mean, we're doing 3D printing. We're scanning vehicles now with 3D scanners.
Yeah. So then you make sure the fit and finish are going to be almost perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, whereas before you used to build like a buck and you would actually like wrap something to put into a car. You're now with a scanner, you're able to 3D model that, put it into a computer. You're able to animate that. You're able to look at the interior before it's even done. And
that's the thing too as well. And you can also, on the computer, you can apply certain materials to the different models. So let's say you're wanting to have a, you know, brushed metal accent on a certain color leather. You can see what that's going to look like. And yes, you can have an artist like Sean Smith or somebody doing a rendering of it, but then also the interior shop or company doing that work can also kind of 3D model what the door panel is actually going to look like 100%, because then they're using those figures and those models to then print all the pieces.
Well, I'm going to stop you right there, because exactly what you just said makes total sense. And I'll give you a real world example of that one. And then I think we should probably get into this. But, you know, again, my friend Alan Hayes, 714 Motorsports, all of the overhauling interiors, Chip would draw out a rendering. And I remember Alan always saying, Chip, that's great if the car was 25 feet long.
Yeah.
Right? Because he'd always accentuate everything, and he'd always elongate all this stuff.
So it looks really nice.
It looks really cool in the rendering, but then you go to put it into a Camaro.
Yeah,
and
not realizing it's a 2.5 foot door or something like that. And so now your long swooping thing is going to be about like a Pac-Man.
Right.
You know, so it takes, you know, with the designers, and that's really cool too with TMI. They've honored the designers, the builders, and the owners.
Exactly.
Because it takes all three of those to create a really nice interior. And there's obviously new technology aside from 3D printing with screens. Yeah. So we've kind of been seeing some of the classic, you know, Restomod stuff that is out there, but what we've been seeing a lot more is where the interior looks like a modern interior.
Right.
And I think that very modern OEM style interior is something that really kind of shone through on the Grand Champion winner. You know, the K5 Blazer that Ring Brothers built. Sean Smith designed that. He also was the designer of Twisted GTO that won the
Previous
same
year.
company last year.
Right.
And, you know, K5 Blazer, you could go a few different ways with that.
Right.
But what they did, and we'll definitely have Sean and one of the guys from Gabe's Upholstery that did the work,
right.
kind of speak about their inspiration and some of the methods that they used on it.
The concept behind this vehicle was to do Restomod Plus in typical Ring Brothers fashion, and I was brought on midway through to create a pretty robust interior, collaborating with the owner and the Ring Brothers, inspired by modern day SUVs and premium luxury vehicles. We kind of used the inspiration to design a one-off interior in collaboration with Gabe's Custom Interiors. Hi, I'm Sean Smith. I'm an automotive designer specializing in one-off automotive bespoke vehicles, and I'm here at the 2024 SEMA show with Tuca, a 1972 Chevrolet Blazer built by the Ring Brothers. And this is the first SUV that I've really done, and so from that standpoint, it was nice to do something that has a more rugged, more functional design aspect rather than the muscle car Restomods that I've done in the past. Randy and Nancy Fricky, they contacted me about 6 months ago, earlier this year, and he really kind of laid down some bullet points on what he wanted to see in the car. We worked hand in hand on the inspiration and the concept of it. We were inspired by looking at a lot of later model premium SUVs such as Range Rovers and GMC, and we kind of took the attributes we saw in those vehicles and added them in here.
So this Blazer we did a full custom interior on. We did a full custom dash that we fabricated. We did with our 5-axis foam machine, and then we pulled the fiberglass part out of it, and then we were able to put our wrap, do a full custom dash, 3D printed parts with resin print. We did everything that you see, we touched. We did a full custom floors with custom trim. It has over 100 feet of custom trim that we did, and then we painted with Cerakote. We also used a boat decking material, black boat decking material that we put on the floors because they're from Florida, so they said that it's gonna get wet, so we wanted to make sure that they were taken care of in that aspect. On the back panels, we also did a 3D printed grille that we wanted to match the hood because the hood has some nice 3D printed parts that has a nice design on it that we wanted to imitate on also the back panels. So what we did is we 3D printed some panels. Oh, it's a lot harder. So there's cup holders and a nice eating area on it. On the back of the truck, they have their spare tire that they wanted hidden. It looks beautiful when you pop it open. So from there, we wanted to wrap up the F-150 console they gave us, and we wanted to make it look to the timepiece that this Blazer is. So we wanted to paint a lot of pieces, make sure it didn't look out of place. We wanted to wrap it nice with the same thread that we ran all through the seats, and that's how we got that F-150 console to fit there. We have beautiful Camaro seats to fit in there. We have those beautiful back seats to imitate the front seats.
I think the biggest thing is to make sure that the client's happy and you execute their dream, right? But it's also nice to come here to such a big place such as SEMA and get recognized on a grand level, on a grand stage as this. I think SEMA is unique because it's the one place I always say where the blue-collar automotive guy comes in contact with the white-collar automotive guy. You know, you can be a shop and wear Dickies and have just as much of a presence as being a CEO of an OEM. This is the one week where we all come into line. They get inspired by us, and car companies get inspired by builders. I mean, super big shout out to Randy and Nancy for bringing me in to complete their vision, and of course Mike and Jim Ring. I've been working with them since 2004. It's always a pleasure. HRE Wheels, and of course Gabe's Custom Interiors and the entire Lopez family. Without them, this wouldn't have happened at the level I think it should have been.
I know for us, it's been a long time that we've been doing this. Well, I've been in this my whole life with my dad, and I've been appreciative of everybody that appreciates the type of work we do.
And we like to just, give a huge shout out and thanks to all the efforts that were put into the interior in this truck, and we really thank TMI. It's nice to see leather premium interiors finally getting the reward they deserve. Thank you.
So looking at trucks again, the best custom truck winner, we kind of knew it even just when we saw it. The last few years, MTI, Mobile Toys Inc. out of Texas, Chris Payne, he has helped create and now become sought after for your modern kind of 3D printed style truck interior. Right. He's also done some Camaros, done a lot of cars, but seems to really be able to dial in on the interior on the truck side of it.
Well, I'm not Chris, obviously, and the guys over there, they do amazing work. I think also the reason why they pick square bodies is because they're like the worst interior to start with. So any type of change would be a great upgrade.
What are you talking about? If you're like a Western cowboy, they're great.
They're great, right? If you don't want your door panels to work and your arm to be on something that, hurts.
No, but that's it. They brought in a lot of modern elements, full digital dash.
Right.
Flushed in screen, wireless charging station on the console. But what is really cool too is like the dash, the door panels still have a very squared off appearance. So it kind of still fits with, and especially this is an 80s square body. It's not a 70s single headlight. This is the more 80s square style.
Right. Has that command kind of board, like dashboard looking thing, console looking dashboard. So no, they're actually creating experiences interiors. They're making them like we've mentioned. They're making a modern feel to an older truck. So
and that's everything else is running and driving modern. It's got a LS, got AccuAir system on it. Like, why is the rest not modern and up to date?
Exactly. And by the way, they do incredible work. They really make a
super
nice
lot
interior.
of detail.
Once the vehicle's a running, driving, painted, beautiful specimen, they tuned the 5.3 liter motor under the hood, and then the vehicle was brought to us at MTI Automotive Designs in College Station, Texas. At that point, we do a full digital scan on the interior of the truck, and we end up spending right at about 100 hours in CAD designing the entire interior in 3D. From that point there, we have 30 3D printers in our facility and 2 big CNCs, and every single piece of the interior was 3D milled or 3D printed. The goal when we do an interior like this is we want a functioning modern interior, and although it is a show truck, it's important that it functions every day and can drive and be comfortable for the owner. So we base our interior designs and our seat designs off the owners that'll be driving it, which was Earl and his father. So it's super important that it has all the necessities, the creature comforts, while being a unique, functioning specimen with, custom AC vents, custom buttons, all functioning electrical features working as it intended, custom lighting switches, and then absolutely some beautiful Italian leather from Relicate. So it's an awesome experience to drive the vehicle. It feels good. You can get it at any point. If you want to roll on the weekends and have a good time, you can. It's sitting on a beautiful set of custom painted billet specialty wheels, and it's just a phenomenal vehicle. It's a great specimen of what a bag truck can be, while still maintaining that traditional look of a beautiful 1986 square body.
To put a bunch of screens in a vintage vehicle and have it feel cold and impersonal and not inviting. The way that you guys created this, it still feels functional, still feels warm, it still feels like you want to drive it.
An engineering degree from Texas A&M, but I've been into cars my entire life. Started off as a car stereo installer, like most of us that do what we do at this level were at one point. So tying that back in to making the vehicles modern and taking a beautiful restored vehicle that's amazing, but on the inside you need to make it modern so the people that have a new truck or a new car, they want those modern features. So we do what we do to tie all that back in, and that's the exciting part for us, is being able to build a vehicle that is old but making it modern for the owner.
It wasn't just the SEMA show, where they did these awards at. We were judging through multiple shows throughout the year. I think they had 4 or 5.
Yeah, their road tour.
The Trim Awards road tour, and so basically with that, where we pick someone that has TMI interior on it because they also want to honor their customers.
Sure.
From each of those shows, and then at the final finale, one would get an entry to SEMA, be able to go out to SEMA,
right?
And that actually then turned around and won the full TMI car interior on it, because that was so Lakeside Speed, they did this Chevelle that very could easily, charcoal kind of gray outside. They very easily could have gone with any color almost.
Well, of course.
I mean, there's a classic like a red or a black or even the gray, but they kind of went with like an oxblood red almost.
Well, and Lakeside too, known for their paint work.
Yeah.
So of course, they're no foe of color.
They know how to match some colors and make them work together.
What I was most impressed with this interior is how much it fit the car.
Yeah.
I mean, the interior usually, again, like you said, it's usually the second thought. It's not the first thought. You look at the outside of the car, you get excited about it, then you look at the inside.
Yeah.
This car looked the opposite. This car, and not to say anything about Lakeside's
No,
work.
it all worked together really well.
It really did.
Yeah,
It was very appealing to the eye, very pleasing.
Yeah.
It looked inviting.
Yeah, you wanted to hop in and
right?
roll it around. So
yeah, and I mean, especially too from a box interior. I know a lot of custom guys will say, "Oh, that's just a box interior."
No, but you look at it,
it looks like a very
if
comfortable.
You didn't know, you wouldn't be able to tell.
Yeah. I mean, great job by both companies. TMI doing the work and Lakeside installing it.
Did some minimal body mods to the car just to get it a little bit cleaned up from factory. Took care of its stance with the Ride Tech air ride suspension. Put a set of Hot Rods by Boyd wheels on it. And of course, it's got the TMI full complete interior kit that to me is the icing on the cake with this car. With what we consider an understated color on the outside of the car, we wanted to bring something in that gave the car a little bit of life inside. We talked to Ross and talked to the guys at TMI and came up with a car color. Actually, it was motivated by Ken and his 71 Nova. Yeah, we started with basically pulling up some reds and some burgundies and a little bit of a black contrast just to give it basically the two-tone look that we were searching for. We didn't want to go with the bright lipstick red combination. It's been done. We kind of were looking for something a little bit more earth tones to go with the outside color, but yet still have a lot of contrast and give somebody something to look at when they open the door. The car, it absolutely performs fabulous. You can drive this car cross country without any hiccups. I want to thank the partners that got us out here to be able to display our car at SEMA this year, TMI, Mothers, Barrett Jackson, Phytech, and Optima Batteries for letting us come out and display our car here. Aside from that, it's just the stance, the color combination, and obviously the color contrast between the interior and the exterior just make this car stand out for us.
TMI started out with the OBS trucks, reaching back into the late 80s to early 90s. Then they went to the Fox body, then they went to the third gen Camaro, and the last thing in the 80s to touch is the G-body platform. I have a huge love for it. They're coming back strong. Absolutely beautiful car. So, as you can see over here, everything is OEM replacement. So you have a dash cover. You've got these new seats that they just come out with. They have two-piece door panels. You have a full-length center console. Every single thing is a direct replacement for OEM on Monte Carlo.
Yeah, so this Oldsmobile Cutlass was pretty cool because it had a very OE kind of look at like first glance.
Yeah.
But then you really look at it and you're like, okay, none of this is factory.
Yeah.
Even the stuff that maybe could be factory has been redone in trim. They've done like the waterfall in the back, and then, I think even back then, like especially in a convertible, like these seats would have just been some small little, it would have been buckets basically.
No, it would have been a bench seat, just like your typical deal. This to me was the wolves in sheep's clothing because it looked like an older car. Like the theme still looked older car. Like it looked like something that could have been made like as an optional package at the dealership, but had so many modern touches after you looked at it. I mean, one that really stuck out to me was the retractable seat belts in the buckets.
Yeah, and that's you have the bucket seats, and they're obviously a lot more modern, and they had kind of the hideaway seatbelt retractor. So that way you could have a 3-point harness, shoulder belts in a convertible.
Right. And believe me, they didn't have them in 72 Olds. So
exactly.
It makes total sense. Right.
Yep.
But great job on these guys too. The color also, the color matched with the rest of the car so well. Yeah. It just tied it together and made it look like it was something, like I mentioned, it looked like it was something that was straight from Oldsmobile.
The 72 Cutlass here took about 2 years for the build. We actually stripped it down to the bare metal dressed everything, tightened all the gaps. But the owner wanted to keep it original and as classic as possible, so we dressed the engine to look like the old original Ram Air engine, and then we did the interior. We worked with Renegade Customs and Covers in Little Rock, Arkansas. He did a phenomenal job keeping the original style, but everything was custom. It's all CNC fab or 3D printed, and he did a phenomenal job. The blue leather just pops on this white Cutlass.
Kind of come together, the owner of the car wanted something that was really timeless and actually looked like it belonged in the car. He wanted 20 years from now, he wanted it to look like it was supposed to still be there. And to where you would almost have to know the car to not realize that it's not kind of an original interior.
Absolutely honored to be chosen by TMI for the Best Custom Award for the SEMA this year. It's a huge honor. Anytime the competition here is phenomenal. I mean, you got the best of the best of the best, and the bar keeps getting higher and higher for it. So it's a big honor for us to be chosen for that, and for someone to be able to appreciate the subtle things that we've done to this car, all the little custom touches. Even the door lock knobs were custom milled CNC billet to match the custom steering wheel and the custom shift knob. But we want to keep that theme, but we wanted the car to still retain the original classic style.
Interior work offers a ton of different ways to be creative as well, because you got a lot of different surfaces to work with, and from door panels to a dash to seats to the stereo system. You're not just doing one thing, and you can try different things out. So definitely being creative is something that's highlighted with these trim awards, and that Chrysler 300.
No, it was amazing.
I mean the whole car was awesome. I mean, just full custom top to bottom.
Right.
Looked like the Chrysler kind of, but not.
Yeah, well,
it was fully chopped. Full body work.
Right, and what most people don't realize, letter cars like these, like the Chrysler letter cars from the 50s, they're already rare as they are.
Yes.
I mean, there's
especially something like this.
Right.
Yeah, it's
for them to take this car over the top. If you start looking at it, there's way too many things to look at. So the interior actually was hard to kind of judge at first, because I was looking at other things on the outside of it, like, oh wow, look at this, look at that.
And they kept the interior somewhat toned down. Right. I mean, obviously super nice work, but it was all the similar color of that kind of charcoal gray. But one thing that was pretty cool is they kept that swivel seat. Right. That was in the 50s, original. They could have easily just bolted in a couple seats because they were redoing everything anyways, but they wanted to throw in a little bit of that old school flair.
Exactly.
We had a really great customer. Randy came to us, and he had the idea to build a 59 Chrysler. And that was really the only rules we had to follow, if you will. The interior in the car is all custom. We tried to pull a lot of modern styling in it. It's full of CNC stitching, carbon fiber, Cerakote, lots of different textures going on.
If you've been following along on Auto Revolution, you know we're a big fan of Chevy OBS trucks. And Beltec Suspension has been around for 40 years, and they were one of the first innovators of the sport truck movement back in the 80s. And we've been lucky with them to partner on a few different projects, from the OBS Clash documentary series to the Tahoe Unlimited, and even a few things that we've got up our sleeves coming out later this year. What's really cool is they've partnered with us to offer free shipping if you use the code AutoRevolution24 at Beltec.com. So whether it's a lowering kit on your Chevy or a lift kit on your Bronco or your Jeep, and if you use the code AutoRevolution24 at Beltec.com, you're going to get free shipping. Now back to the show. So if you're still rocking your stock stereo system, you need some help, and you need to go to Powerbase and check out their OEM direct fit line of speakers, basically a plug-and-play operation on any newer Chevy, Ford, Dodge, Nissan, you name it. And I actually got a full set in my Toyota 4Runner. It sounds amazing, especially considering you're basically just replacing the factory speakers. So go check them out at powerbaseusa.com. Use the code AutoRev24, and you can get 10% off anything on the site, including these cool little Bluetooth speakers. This one right here is the Sound Cube. Clip it onto your backpack, take it down to the beach. And what's really cool is this split speaker. So you can put one in the kitchen, one in the backyard at a party. Everyone's having a good time listening to the same music. Basically got like full stereo, almost surround sound system in this little package. So if you use the code AutoRev24, you can get 10% off. So go check them out and take a listen. So we're diving in on Tim's Camaro, second gen, split bumper. What I thought was pretty cool about this is, I mean, obviously the blue. Could have gone black on black.
Right.
blue can also be a little bit overwhelming, but it was very toned down and fit everything, and that's why it won best color. Use of color matching.
Exactly. It grabbed me from left field. I walked up to a black Camaro and I was like, okay, I'm gonna see a black interior, maybe a tan, right, or even a gray. But the blue to me was so refreshing, different. And then when you started looking at the rest of the car, even the black of the color had more of a blue tone to it. So
it all tied in together.
Right. He was matching everything together, and that use of color really is important with an interior too.
Obviously it's a black car. We want to do something a little different, so we went with a blue interior in the car. 416 LS, tuned by HB tuners. When the customer brought the car to us, after the car was painted, it came back to us. He was pretty adamant about a red interior, and I just couldn't do it. We wanted to do something a little different, and playing off of the GM night shift blue, trying to do something a little cooler, a little more, unsuspecting. I went with the blue. We played with a bunch of different leather colors, so we figured out what we wanted, and I wanted something that was so blue that it looked black from far away.
A wagon or an SUV's got a lot more interior work to play with, which could be a good thing or a bad thing. But the Weavers, they knocked out this Pontiac Safari wagon.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, first off, Pontiac Safari wagons are already a difficult car to build. There's a lot of chrome on those cars.
Yes, and they did a good job with all the chrome.
They really did, right.
And they did bring a lot of that as an accent on the inside.
Exactly. I mean, they're very kind of the same cloth as the Chevy Nomads, but the Pontiacs were more, a little more luxury. So they reflected that in this interior, though. So they took kind of those 50s luxury items, and they kept them, but then they brought in the newer luxury items and mixed the two of them together. But it didn't look like someone was trying to put,
No, and that's the difference of some of the other ones we've mentioned, where there's, everything's modernized, drivetrain, suspension,
right,
everything on, a truck or a car, and the interior is very heavily modernized.
Right.
This was still modernized, but still had the look of the classic 50s. I mean, especially with the body cloth, the little emblems on the seats, the trim, around just the inserts themselves.
Right, and a lot of that stuff was handmade. A lot of the
that's what I remember seeing all the trim on the door panels and everything was all, handmade that they were saying.
Exactly.
So it's just super beautiful. Lots of little touches as well with the chrome on the inside that matches the outside.
Right.
The 57 Pontiac Safari, we're really fortunate to come up with a really good car. We've kept everything so simple on this to keep it clean, to not detract from what the car is, and I think we were able to pull it off.
Kevin's exactly right. That car actually, the way it was put together looked like it was something that was done in 57, but as a concept vehicle. So hats off to the workmanship that Tracy and his team did.
So to wrap things up, with Jeremiah Belk's Nova.
Oh, hold on a sec. I see what you did there. To wrap things up.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. You had me in stitches there, laughing for a second. All right,
let's cut to the chase.
Yeah. Cut to the chase. I see what you did there as well. If you're doing a drinking game of interior puns, I apologize. But this thing was, we saw some pictures of it ahead of time, and then when we really went up close and looked at it, this was a really super nice interior. What was really cool is they used a set of TMI seats in the front that they recovered and kind of reconfigured.
Right.
And then full custom everything else. I mean, even to the point where like the dashboard is actually out of a Chevy truck.
Yeah. This is a car that, like you just said, pictures don't do this car justice.
Yeah.
This was a car when you walked up, it was like, oh, wow, let's take a look. The Chevy truck dash was kind of the first thing that stuck out in my mind, which it has that classic kind of two hump.
Yeah, that double hump.
A double hump, which
fits really well on kind of almost anything.
It does.
You can mess with the middle section to kind of bring it in if you wanted to.
Well, and a lot of guys will say go for the Corvette.
Yeah.
And the problem with the Corvettes is that in a car that's a little wider.
I was going to say, you're already starting small, whereas if you're starting at the widest point, you can always take a little out of the middle.
Right. Well, that's where the truck dash makes more sense than the Corvette dash. Mm-hmm. So that was the first thing I was like, whoa, wow, hey, this was executed very well. Yeah. But and when I mean executed, there was not a crooked anything in this car.
My name is Mikey Dascoli from Driven Speed Shop out of Gilbert, Arizona, and we had a client, Jeremiah Belk, approached us some years ago to build a 66 Chevy Nova, and the goal was a very racy-inspired, high horsepower pro touring car that he warned us that he was going to drive the wheels off of. So Yeah, so when it came to the interior design, we definitely wanted something that felt a little bit of a mesh between a luxury and a sport vibe. So we contacted Sean Smith, and he did some initial sketches and renderings and got us kind of kicked off in a good direction there. And then we contacted SoCal Rods out of Ontario, California. And from there, those guys and the client really took it and created what you see, a very comfortable feel, but also integrate the roll cage and the whole high performance aspect of the car.
Super nice setup, and has the TMI bucket seats in the front. And I think that's a cool point to make, is that you know, the nice thing about the TMI product line is they can come as custom as they are, but you can always modify them beyond to fit what you have going on.
We didn't rebolster that seat or nothing. It simply got recovered to match the theme of the car. But that is straight from TMI, the bolstering and the fit of that seat. Yeah. With some TMI hardware, we're going to catch a few more shows. You can see the car at Dino's and Good Guys, and then we're off to compete for the Barrett-Jackson Cup.
That carried into the trunk as well, because one of the things, like, that's part of the interior.
It is.
Right. And they did a really good job of bringing in the color of that, making it still a functional trunk space, but just super clean, super nice. And I even like the little neck thing they did with the fuel filler, just to kind of clean it up and give it a nice look, and knowing that you still had to have that height to get the nozzle in there without back and on it.
And also not the way that they wrapped it, like in this kind of like more like a rubberish looking piece, so it would wipe off easier if you spilled.
That's
you
probably
dribbled
true
gas,
too.
Yeah. So they thought of everything. That's what I liked about this interior. They looked at it as, I'm going to spend time in this car.
Well, yeah, you're looking at it as what's going to be functional.
Right.
Everything can look cool, but it's still a mechanical car. It's still a mechanical truck that has to drive, that has to feel comfortable driving. And especially if on some of these, let's say if they're going on power tour or they're going on a road trip,
right?
Rather than throwing it in a trailer, like, you want to be comfortable. You want to have heat. You want to have AC. You want to have CarPlay or Android. You want to be comfortable in there.
Yeah.
And
when you're putting down 400 to 500 miles a day in a car, that's 5 to 6 hours in a car.
What's really cool is a lot of the technology has really allowed some of these interior guys and designers to just really create anything that they can think of and to make it very functional.
Yeah. Well, let's see what they come up with next year, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. So if you go check out, TMI products, they got all the award winners on there, some more specs on all that stuff. And obviously they're going to be doing that again next year. A couple different stops throughout the year, from the Grand National Roadster Show to their cars and clearance at the end of the summer, that kind of wraps things up.
Oh, you did it again.
For the SEMA show with the Trim Awards next year. So I can't think of any more interior puns, so I think we'll just
we'll get out of here.
We'll put this thing to bed. I don't know.
Okay.
No, that didn't work. All right.
That's a wrap.
11:45. Yes. Thank you. Great.
Yes.
Yay, team.
And again,
You men do a rad job.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, team.
Yeah, you guys really made it
all set up.
Chris,
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Make sure, if you're going to be here next year, enter this competition. We want to see that bar get raised every year, and